What's going on, everyone? Today I'm just going to quickly update my Raspberry Pi that's over here and, and update the CPU and GPU for it, or not update, overclock it a little bit so that way I can get some better speeds in PyCharm and general use of my Raspberry Pi. Now that one, it does have only micro SD card on it right now, so it's not as fast as using my M.2 one, but if we can add a little bit more speed to it, let's go ahead and do that. So I'm just going to bring up my VNC viewer here, and all we're going to do is we are just going to bring up our terminal window here. So you can click on the link at the top there, this guy here, or you can just press Control Alt and T on your keyboard. And then we're just going to go sudo nano /boot /config.txt. Now I'm going to say do this at your own risk. I am not going to be liable or responsible for anything that you may do to your Raspberry Pi. So I'm just going to go down below here. So I'm just going to set ARM frequency to equal 2000 megahertz, so 2 gigahertz. And then the GPU, I'm going to set the frequency to 600. That's high as I'll go on the GPU. You can go higher if you want. I think the max I would even attempt would be 750, but I honestly wouldn't go more than 600. It's not needed going higher. You can play around with your overclocking. If you have really good cooling, you could take it up a notch. Only go to 2 gigahertz if you do have substantial cooling as well. Now, most of the time, 1.75 gigahertz will be sufficient, but I like 2 gigahertz. It just makes it sound nicer to me. Yeah, I think that's all we're going to do for now in here. So I'm just going to go Control X, yes, hit enter, and then sudo reboot. And I'll be back in just one moment here. There we go. So forgot to add a few lines of my code here. So I'm just going to show you what they are here. So I ended up having to take my micro SD card out, plugging it into my other Raspberry Pi, and actually adding a few extra lines here. I did forget to add the over voltage and setting that to a value of 6. You don't need this. I tend to usually put that there. It just kind of sets your architecture to the 64-bit versus the 32. It kind of tricks your system. So, but don't worry about that. But the only 3 that you're going to need is the over voltage, the ARM frequency, and the GPU on there. So that will get your Raspberry Pi up and running. And like I said, I did forget to put that in there, and I usually have the ARM control set to that. Anyways, so for the things that I do. So I'm just going to exit out of there. Now to test our Raspberry Pi, all we're going to type is cat /sys devices system CPU 0, CPU frequency / scaling _ current. Oh, wow, someone can type. So scaling _ so that's the current state it's looking for, and then frequency. And we're doing the idle 6, eh? Let's try that again, but this time I'm going to open up a web browser here, and then I'm going to run it again. And there we go. So we're hitting that 2000. Instead of this being 1.5 gigahertz stock, we've bumped it up to 2 gigahertz. And yeah, you could do, I would say do 1.75 gigahertz. So in that file there, in that boot config, all you're going to do is you're going to change this ARM frequency to that 1750 instead. Eventually I will play around with the GPU frequency more, but for now that's about it that I'm going to do. I'm not going to go higher than 600. I would say 600, you're safe. But that being said, let's see how PyCharm launches now compared to before. I just want to have a quick look here. There we go. Much better. Using a VNC on a Raspberry Pi, sometimes it doesn't register certain clicks here and there, obviously. This is definitely going to be quicker no matter what, because it's not doing that initial indexing and loading of everything that it did the first time. And that's also going to depend on your internet as well, as far as your download speeds for those packages. There we go. That was fairly quick. It's just doing, so it is indexing again right down here. But the overall loading up process definitely seemed a little bit quicker. Once again, we've only boosted that speed about 500 megahertz, right? So it's not a huge jump, but it's enough you're going to notice it. And running a micro SD card really isn't that great. Yeah, I would definitely suggest if you're going to be doing stuff like that, then upgrading to a USB SSD drive or the M.2 drive boards that you can get out there. On my main Raspberry Pi, I do have that Argon 40 or Argon 1 M.2 drive that works absolutely amazing. The only thing I don't like about the system is, well, it gets too warm. It's too warm for my liking for being on all the time. And it doesn't cool as well as some of my previous cases. So anyways, that's enough of that. I hope you enjoyed this video today. This is just how we add a little extra boost to your Raspberry Pi. You're definitely going to get more bang for your buck. It's going to load a lot quicker. Maybe not like amazing blazing speeds, but it's going to be enough that you notice it and things are not going to get hung up. And you're going to be able to enjoy your Raspberry Pi as a desktop unit for programming, watching videos, all that kind of stuff. And just by doing a few little tweaks here and there, you can definitely make a Raspberry Pi a pretty diverse machine to do every day-to-day task that you would require on a regular desktop computer. The only thing you're not getting right now is that video graphics processing power. With that being said, that's when you start going into higher end stuff, and you're going to be spending more on power. The Raspberry Pi on its own is a really low wattage system, so why change something that's not broken? If you want a game, there's tons of games on the Raspberry Pi. Just depends what you want, really. So anyways, thanks for watching, everyone. That's enough rambling for me today. I hope you all have a wonderful day, a wonderful week, and we'll see you next time. Take care, eh?